Hey, Kevin Martin here, your UT admissions guy and founder of Tex Admissions, and I'm here with a incoming UT Austin student for the class of 2024, Max. So, hey, Max, how's it going?
Hi. So I go to McNeil High School currently, even though we might not be back for the rest of the year due to the COVID-19 outbreak. But anyway, so this year I applied to UT Austin, UT Dallas, Texas A&M, uh, Rice University, Trinity University, Colorado School of Mines, Cornell University, and Georgia Tech. Um, and I applied as a mechanical engineering major. And for UT Austin, I applied for Plan 2 honors. And then there are a few other schools that I would have applied to had I not gotten my UT acceptance so early. And those were University of Southern California, NYU, Northwestern University, and Carnegie Mellon University.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing. How do you feel about your college list now that everything is done and you've received and we'll talk about your UT decision a little bit later, but like it's quite a list. Like, what was the workload like for you, and what advice might you give to juniors or sophomores when making the college list?
Um, I think we should treat like Apply Texas and Common App, and I have several friends who did the UC system. So I feel like you should kind of separate those and what they are, and you can still like use essays for like use the same essay in multiple uh, application systems. But I think what really helped me was organizing it by application because like the Common App, you can just basically fill it out once and you're done. Besides like your more specific essays. Um, so as far as building a college list, like for in-state, that was really easy because obviously I wanted to apply to UT, UT Dallas, and Texas A&M. Like that was pretty standard for me just going in. Um, but then for out of state, I just looked at like all the schools that took the common application. And looking back, I could have done a lot more research earlier. Like I basically started doing research in August about where I wanted to go to school if it wasn't like regular A&M or UT. Um, so I feel like my college list was less extensive than it could have been, um, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
If I
thanks for
was,
sharing. Do you think that there was like, could you have imagined a scenario where you would have attended something besides, let's say you didn't get into UT Austin and you got into A&M and UT Dallas. Could you imagine a scenario where you might have attended another university out of state, for example, or even paid a little bit more?
yeah, definitely for sure. Because like I said, I crossed out four other schools just basically immediately after I got into UT. So I would have applied and see where I gotten in there, and definitely considered those more as options, like out of state, more expensive, that type of thing.
Yeah. When did you receive your UT Austin decision?
December 13th, so it was really early,
Okay,
uh,
cool.
relatively speaking.
So you would have been, I guess, in the second wave. I think this year they had a number of decisions came out in like late November, early December. Um,
Right.
what was that like at
I think,
school when people started hearing back? Like, was it kind of weird to be like, it's cool that you got admitted early and it was like one of your top choices, but was it kind of strange to be like one of the people that heard back already, especially for mechanical engineering, which is a high demand degree?
yeah, for sure. Like just seeing like my friends who were like, congratulations, but also you could see in their eyes that they were really stressed that they didn't get it. And they're like, I don't know if I'm gonna get it now. And you just have to be encouraging and remember that you're all on the same team. Like I feel like that was something that a lot of people forgot was like just because your friend got in doesn't mean you won't. Um, yeah, so it was pretty it was sort of stressful, um, seeing everybody else stressing about their own applications, but
Yeah.
I'm glad that I was on the side of that I was,
Yeah, and what was your family's response? Like, what was the day like when you actually got your decision? Because you didn't know it was coming, and so what was that day and weekend like?
Um, well, they were. I was sitting in the other room and just kind of yelled. I was like, "I got it!" Everybody hugged, and we were really excited that it came so early and they were impressed that I knew like exactly when it would be because I checked my portal like before the email came,
Hmm.
and yeah. So yeah, that was um, pretty surreal actually because I was doubting my chances from the beginning. um, but yeah,
Yeah, I
and
can.
then with
Yeah,
decisions that came later, I was even more impressed.
right. Yeah, share about some of the other decisions. Well, maybe we'll start with everyone wants to know like your numbers, your stats. So like, what was your
Stats, okay.
yeah like your rank, GPA, test scores, and any sort of thoughts you might want to share about study tips that you did, or maybe if you retook the SAT and in hindsight it wasn't necessary, or any thoughts about kind of the build up to senior year.
So just an overview of my stats. I got a 1520 on my SAT, a 780 on the math section, a 740 on the reading, writing. When I applied, I was 55th of 620 in my class, so I think that's top 9%. Um, my GPA unweighted, I was 3.85, but I don't think UT really looks at that for anything. Um, and then my weighted GPA, I think it's on a 6.0 scale. I still don't know. No one has a 6.0, but it's 5.1133. Um, so as far as like the SAT, I got really lucky in that I just took it once after studying. I just took it once at the
Hmm.
school given one. The way I prepared for it was Khan Academy. That was a really great resource. I think I took like 4 practice tests on that, and I improved basically every time and did the little practice sessions, and that was really all I needed because I already knew all the stuff um, on the math section from my classes, and then the reading is just about practice.
Wow.
Um, I guess. Hmm?
Yeah, so it's kind of almost like a best case scenario. I feel like sometimes students will, even when they score really well, say a 1500 or 1520, they'll feel pressure to also take the ACT, or they'll retake it again. And it's pretty
Right.
cool that you just, yeah, used free resources. You weren't spending thousands of dollars on a SAT tutor. So yeah, that was pretty good outcome. So it probably took some of the stress away.
Yeah, definitely. I was not expecting to score as high as I did. Like my practice tests were centered around like 1400 and 1420. And then the test itself seemed super easy. I just breezed through it. I don't know if that was because the practice tests were harder or what. But yeah, I felt really lucky that I got as high as I did. And for that reason, I didn't feel the need to take it again. I did consider doing that ACT, but was pretty quickly discouraged when I would have to get a 35 or 36 to improve upon what I already had. And I knew people who were smarter than me who weren't getting those scores.
Yeah, sure.
Um, so, yeah, I just stuck with my original. I kind of pride myself on only having to take it once, but honestly, it was just lucky that I got that test and then I was already prepared.
Yeah, it's definitely impressive. And I always encourage students to take a step back. I've even seen students who have gotten 34s and 35s and they want to take the SAT just to, I don't know, make a 1580 or 1600. And there's the returns are diminishing, right? If you're spending tens of hours or even 100 hours of studying to maybe increase by a percentile, like
Right.
T Austin or most selective universities are not going to admit or deny you on a percentile difference in your score. So I think it shows some maturity to kind of take a step back and say, like, is this the best way to spend my weekends, my Saturday mornings, and free nights, right?
Right. Exactly. And then rank is especially important for UT Austin, I think, more than out of state private universities.
Yeah.
Um, because let's see, where was it going? Oh yeah. So in order to improve your rank, like for me personally, I had to take a lot more AP classes um, and do well in them. Because like freshman and sophomore year, I was only taking about half or three quarters of the advanced classes, the weighted classes that I could, and that really really held me back. Because this year and last year, junior and senior year, I've gotten a GPA that would have gotten me in the top 20 in the top 10 in my class. Um, so that's some advice that I would give to my past self is take more AP classes.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be tough to play catch up, especially if you're not on the honors or AP track or you're taking non-honors or non-AP electives. It's a tough balance.
Right.
The one hand, you don't want to overburden yourself, but on the other hand, like as you say, to be in the top 20 or top 5% requires it. And college is not that different. So that's a piece of advice I give to incoming college students is freshman year grades really do make a big difference because
Right.
if you have mostly A's freshman year, that's going to set you up for research opportunities, for internships, for scholarships as well. Especially UT, I think they give like 3/4 of their scholarship budget is for current students. So those who are doing study abroad, research, internships, and yeah, so maybe we can pivot there to your actual UT application itself. So maybe share a little bit more about your application journey because it was quite different, I think, than most students. Even for me, working with my clients, your journey was a little less straightforward than others. So maybe if you would share a little bit about um, how it unfolded for you.
Okay. So I started really thinking about like writing my essays and putting together my resume probably in early August, a couple weeks before school started. And that was a lot later than probably should have been, but oh well. Um, I uh, kind of halfway drafted my essays and was like, this is hard. um, and um, so that's about the point where I can't remember when I first got in contact with you. But I remember my mom had a friend who told me that there's this guy who is, if you want to go to UT, then you need to hire this guy. And I was like, no, like I want to put together like my own application. I want it to be all me. Like this isn't going to be someone else's work. Like that's a cop out. Was
Yeah.
basically my first opinion. And then I tried to do it. um, so then I was like Googling like essay help, like not people, but like just advice. And then I get like to your website and started reading some of those. And then I based like some of my initial drafts on those examples that you had. And then I told my mom I found this guy, and I think he would be a really great resource to have. And she was like, "Oh, that's the person I told you about like earlier this
That's
year."
funny. Yeah.
um, so yeah, then when you came into the picture and we had like our first um, call meeting, that really like put things in perspective. Like this is what needs to happen, and it's really not that hard. Like just
Mm.
resume, start your essays, and then we'll work on those, and then you're done. And I think it like um, made me stress a lot less about that. Um, So I ended up submitting my application on the 15th of October, um, and then accepted a couple months
And
later. So yeah.
on the front end, you applied. Remind me, Max, you applied for Plan Two, right?
Yes, I applied. I think I submitted my regular application, and then we wrote the Plan 2 supplement, and submitted it all before the November 1st priority deadline.
Yeah. And then the most interesting part of your journey was with what came in the spring. There was some news that you had got in the spring that was unexpected. One with the Terry Scholarship Foundation,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and then the engineering
yeah.
honors. Bit of a curveball.
Yeah, that was crazy. So yeah, I got my UT acceptance on December the 13th, and then on January the 24th, I got my Plan 2 acceptance, which I was even more surprised about than the initial acceptance. And then February 5th, I got this weird email from UT that was like, "We've just extended the deadline, especially for you." And I texted my friend, I was like, "Stop messing with me. Like, this isn't real. Like, obviously not real." And he was like, "No, I didn't do that." So it was an invite to the engineering honors program, essentially, and said like, and I posted it on Reddit, and Ahmad said, "Yeah, this has happened before, and if you email back, then you'll get in." So I did, and then on February the 16th, I got my engineering honors acceptance and a $10,000 per year scholarship, um, for 4 years, from engineering honors. And then with the Terry scholarship thing we were talking about, I advanced as a uh, the one before semifinalist, whatever you call that. So they emailed me saying, you need to submit your letters of recommendation. Um, so I did, uh, but that didn't end up working out. They said I didn't advance to the finalist round or the semifinalist round. So there's a rec letter stage and then an interview stage, and I did not advance to the interview stage. But they said I think 90 in 900, or maybe it was 90 in 1600. It was a really low number that got the interview.
Yeah, I think we were looking into it. And so the Terry Foundation is for students who have demonstrated some financial need. And I think you
Right.
had found some of the stats and didn't realize how competitive it was. I thought it was less, I thought more people received it than it was like less than 10%. Like you say, got the interview. Um, yeah. So you ended up getting into mechanical engineering. You got Plan Two, and then engineering honors with the scholarship, which was unexpected. And then you also got something, another kind of email of like a week or two ago for another You got your financial aid package, and then you got another scholarship. So, do you want to share a little more about what's happened here in March?
So I haven't gotten my like official financial aid package from UT. I'm hoping that comes in before April 1st in the next few days. Um, but I did for the Pell Grant based on my family's income. So I get that, and then engineering honors was 10,000, and then I inadvertently saw this scholarship on UT's cash website, and it was under like financial aid history and not like regular financial aid. So it was kind of weird. But anyway, it said that I had a $12,000 scholarship, and I have a screenshot of it. So if they say I don't get it, like, hey.
Yeah.
um, so that would have been um, $12,000 per year for 5 years, I believe. That would bring my cost of attendance to nearly zero, if not
Hmm.
zero.
Yeah, that was pretty exciting. I'll be curious what happens because you never got an email about that scholarship, did you? It just like showed up and then.
Never got an email in a couple of days. Yeah, never got an email, and a couple of days later it was gone.
Huh.
But I have the screenshot.
Yeah, that's weird. I think if yeah, when you get your financial aid package, maybe reach out to financial aid directly and see what's going on there. Because I'd be curious. I've never heard of something like that happening, so I don't know if it was a technical error or if
Yeah,
they gave you the scholarship and now they're taking it back. I don't. Sometimes weird things happen at UT that we can't explain. But
yeah. I think I posted that to the admissions Reddit, um, and someone replied like, "Hey, that actually worked. Like, I saw something there." Um, but they didn't say what. But I think I was not the only one.
okay, yeah, that might make sense. If there was one student who got it, maybe there was others that also received this notification. But yeah, it'll be good to have some clarity. So when that happens, yeah, you can let me know. And yeah, maybe we can shift to conversations about social media and online college communities. Did you use any of the communities like Reddit or College Confidential?
So I didn't really like. I had done some light like browsing through those before I was accepted, but really it was after I was accepted to my major that I really like. I made a Reddit account and started reading like all of these people who got in, and questions and all of that. So I think it can be a healthy thing to look into every once in a while, but it's definitely not the most reliable information, and um, it's just anecdotes. So um, it can be fun to look at, but that's about it.
Yeah, I think the communities can be really tough because I regularly see students who just like spend literally hours per day on these places, or even parents too. And there's a mental health concern, but then there's also as you say, the clarity and accuracy of information. And like I've spent my whole career, like basically the last 10 years of my life, trying to limit the confusion and speculation and guessing, that happens in these
Right,
places, or extrapolating from one story into some much larger thing. I think you even in particular messaged me a few times for like, hey, like, is this true or what's going on here? So yeah, it can be tough to tell the myth from there is some good information on these communities. It's just hard to know which is which, right?
right. Yeah, exactly. And college confidential, I would just stay away from that. All it's all old, and it's all parents. So I just stick to the Reddit.
Yeah, I guess that is one silver lining of the UT Austin admission subreddit or the applying to college subreddit is it is primarily student driven, but then you have the issue where it's like a bunch of 17 and 18-year-olds and maybe current college students who are masquerading as college admissions experts and professionals. So like there's this
Right,
weird balance between like having both perspectives, both the student perspective and the parents and the admissions professionals. And I find it can be really hard to strike that, especially when the
right.
community.
You have to keep in mind that. What was that last part?
Go ahead, Max. It's okay.
I was just saying that you have to keep in mind um, that it's not official, and people could be lying, but um, sometimes it can help you put things in perspective for yourself. Um, but yeah, you just have to take it with a grain of salt, I guess.
Do you think it was a little easier to be detached from the social communities because you joined after you received your admissions? Like, what if do you think if you had done it, let's say before you take an SAT, would it might have been a little different?
Yeah, like before I took the SAT, I was blissfully unaware of this college process
Yeah.
and everything. I just knew I wanted to do well and knew that I had to study. Um, I wasn't necessarily shooting for a certain score. I just, because it doesn't matter what score you shoot for if your abilities are X. So, um, yeah, I think definitely joining those communities later was beneficial.
Mm. Yeah, that's good to hear. It can be really tough to make that judgment because you want information and it's hard to find quality information about UT Austin in particular. And yeah, it's I think a discussion that each student has to make for themselves and then trying to realize if it's maybe a little less healthy. Did you join any of like the UT like class of 2024 Facebook groups or any of like the UT specific stuff or do anything on campus yet before the lock?
I just joined that Facebook group a couple days ago and kind of looked through it, what people were doing, and a lot of girls were posting about, and I'm planning on rushing, and I was like, I'm not ready for that. Um, as far as campus events, I went to a little Plan 2 tour thing, and that was helpful just to see like what the professors were like and how the class is structured. Like you can read about how the class is structured, but I don't know, I don't always trust like the image that they make for themselves.
Mm.
So yeah, that was a helpful visit. And then I did an uh, engineering thing. I think it was called You Belong Here. But anyway, I took my grandpa actually. Um, so yeah, we had a good time. I didn't necessarily learn a ton of new things, um, but it was good.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Let's maybe circle back to your application itself. So, in two of your essays, you wrote about one of your favorite teachers, who was
Hmm.
doing some of your engineering classes, and I think it's a great idea to write about your favorite teachers. The essay that I want to read in the future, I'm not sure I've ever read an essay about someone's least favorite teacher. Did you have you could reimagine doing your applications? Could you imagine writing an essay about like the teacher where you just if you have anyone that you didn't get along with or they exercised their authority in ways that didn't command respect, does anyone come to mind that's like the opposite of the teacher that you wrote about in your essays?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, someone does.
Okay.
And I think I sort of alluded to that in my major essay, um, with kind of going against the grain in the band. Um, I talked about how the band program was kind of authoritative and that the leadership positions weren't exactly leadership. They were more servant positions. Um, and that was something that I sort of fought against and had several confrontations with this specific band director. But um, yeah, I can definitely imagine like writing an essay about my least favorite teacher.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
I like to try and kind of flip things sometimes. Like everyone, you read these essays about like, oh, like my grandpa's the greatest grandpa in the world, and like my brother is the greatest brother in the world, and I'm just waiting for the time when someone just spends 700 words, like not necessarily complaining about like their brother or parent or something, but yeah, I find that sometimes in the admissions world, like, did you feel this pressure to try and put like your best self forward all the time when like the truth might be a little more complex than that?
Right. Um, like I feel like in my essays, I think a big theme that came through was like uh, I didn't really have anything that was super like, I don't know, like picture perfect. Um, it was more like I have original ideas, and sometimes that causes me to go against the grain. So I think that's something that came through in my essays. Um, more than the typical applicant.
And so, in what ways were you able to, or for example, I maybe I'm hearing this from you. Some students think like, oh, I don't have anything interesting to write about. Was it helpful for you to frame the questions in different ways and think about, for example, when telling your SAA story, to be a little more contrarian?
Yeah, like with the tell us your story, um, I feel like you can't you can't really frame it as a story like first this happened, then this happened, then this happened. It's more like for me, it was just tell us about yourself. Like who are you? Um, and like I guess it was more of like an identity essay than
Mm.
a story per se. Like I know some of my friends wrote theirs about like an actual story of them getting their first pet or something, and I was like, like I think I'm like I don't think they'll mind if it doesn't sound like a story.
Yeah, that's a really good point to make. I find students as well, especially with the SAA this year, they found themselves in a box, quite a box, even though it's a very broad topic. Because as you say, you can talk about identity, your interests, you know, and even with your essay, you touched on a couple of different things. Can you tell a little bit about the introduction? I thought that was pretty cool. That was one of the coolest parts of the essay, I felt.
So the introduction, I I believe I haven't read it recently, so um, I think I said something about me sitting as a uh, I think it was a third grader. Yeah, I was in third grade, sitting in the country at my great grandma's house, and I was just talking to my dad about um, like outer space concepts and existential concepts and just stuff that like really deep conversation, you know, like stereotypical um like that's deep. You know, we were just talking about that stuff, and I it kind of brought up how my dad um was uh, really influential in, I guess, my way of thinking now. um so yeah, my I guess in my introduction I kind of like set a scene that was able to portray my identity.
And then you also touched on your family a little more, I think, in your diversity short answer. And if you want to share a little bit about the business that your parents started, it was like it's an estate sale company, right? And that's kind of thrown family dynamics into a bit of a twist the last year or two, hasn't it?
Yeah, so I mentioned I qualified for the Pell Grant. The reason that is because both of my parents sort of left their jobs, I think in late 2017, and that business at the beginning of 2018. And that's the tax return that goes on the FAFSA. So so imagine like starting a business, your income is going to be really low for a while, like as you incur all these new expenses. Like now we have to have a Wi-Fi router and a trailer and all of these supplies, and we have to pay employees, and it's going to, you know, take a while to get back on your feet. um, but anyway, yeah, with the start of our business, our income went way down, um, and but the silver lining was my diversity essay, because I was able to write about working at estate sales and like um, all of the people that I come across, um, and the interactions that I have with them. Um, so yeah,
Can you
I
share?
did not mention that I worked for my parents. I
Yeah,
kind
I
of
couldn't
left that
remember.
out.
I know you mentioned for the estate. I couldn't remember if you said specifically if it was with your parents' company, but
No, I made sure to leave that out.
okay, I could remember. Yeah, it's a good clarification. It doesn't make that much of a difference. It's like it. I think it's MIT, for example. They ask a question. It's optional if you want to talk about a research opportunity or internship that you had, and then they have another box that's like, how did you get this research opportunity or internship? And because like
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, if you're like a high school student, I mean, unless you know, I also am always a little bit skeptical when I see research opportunities on students' resumes. More so when I used to review the application itself, it was just always a bit of a question mark. Like, how are you doing like cell biology and cancer research at UT Southwestern? Like
Right.
that happened. If there's no context, like it's always a little bit of a question mark. But I remember your essay was pretty funny. I think you did. Can you share again what the craziest thing you saw at the estate sale, at one of the estate sales, and what an estate sale is? Like, can you share a little more about what that is? Because not everyone knows.
Yeah. So an estate sale um, is usually an older person who's downsizing will call us and say, like, I need to sell everything in the house. And we say, okay. And we host a sale that's like um, sort of a store retail environment. Um, and then once we sell everything, we take a cut of the proceeds and they get the rest. Um, but in that in the sale itself, people from the neighborhood come, and then we have like regulars that come to every sale around the city. Um, so it's a pretty interesting job. And then you come across lots of interesting objects because you're selling everything in the house, from like this old person who has never gotten rid of anything in 50 years. Um, so the strangest thing that we came across that I think I mentioned in my diversity essay was a a German Nazi Germany gun. It was a pistol. We couldn't sell it because we have a lot of Jewish customers, but um, but yeah, that was pretty interesting. Like tons of history, and I think the client had brought it back from a war at some point, or the client's family, someone. Yeah, that was the most interesting thing.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. And a pro tip for current college students or incoming college students: estate sales are a great place to get pretty nice stuff pretty cheap. Like my friends and I actually went to some estate sales like in the Hill Country in West Austin. I don't know, 4 or 5 times. Because you can add like we'd see it advertised on Craigslist, and so you can actually get some pretty nice things that you may not otherwise be able to afford. So yeah, so I can
Yeah,
state sales though as a good like cost saving measure for starving college students.
yeah. Like our guideline on prices, I think, is 2/3 of retail. Like that's just like the base, like what we price things at. Um, and then it makes for some really good deals.
Yeah, that's cool. So what do you tell me a little bit about like what's going on right now at your high school with COVID-19 and how senior year has been and just like what it's like to be in a really uncertain time during this otherwise like pretty happy what should be a pretty happy semester, right?
Yeah. So up until spring break, everything was great. I was taking it easy because I had an off period, and then the rest of my classes weren't very stressful, which is a huge change from junior year. So I was cruising along, and then like we heard about this COVID-19, and all of a sudden we're not going back to school, possibly for the rest of the year. So prom, graduation, um, like band events, competitions, um, all of the sports and everything just canceled. So that was, I think it hit me like maybe a week ago that
Hmm.
I probably wasn't going to have a real graduation. And that was probably the most, like, that really got me.
Hmm.
Like, dang, I'm not going to be able to like throw my cap in the air. Um, I mean, I didn't like, I wasn't crying about it. It's just like, but yeah, it's a pretty crazy time to be um, in this huge transition in my life. Um, and it's kind of surreal that like no one is doing anything, and you'd think activity on social media and everything would go up, but it's actually gone way down. But
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed on my social media too. I guess people just aren't like out at the parks and taking trips and like eating at cool restaurants. I don't know what 18-year-old kids do on social media, but I've
yeah,
noticed some people just don't. Yeah, it's just kind of sad. I feel the same way. There's just like a melancholy air, and as you say, it's you're already making a transition. Like going into the university is an uncertain time for anybody, and then you're this in this period of human history where nobody has the answers to the questions, right? And
right.
that's it's a struggle.
Yeah. Actually, my brother was getting um, so restless that he needed to like take a walk or something. And so my mom was like, okay, but you're not allowed to see any friends.
Yeah.
So he went out, and I think like an hour later, we got a call from someone's mom. And they're like, like, your kid is hanging out with someone else's kid. Like, get them home. And they're like, oh, geez.
How old's your
um,
brother?
he is a freshman. He's 14.
Okay, it's like old enough to know
So
better, I guess.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, he just straight up lied to my parents, so they were
Really?
mad.
Oh no. Do you think a lot? Like, I'm trying to think of what I would do. Like, I was reading stories about people partying on the beach at spring break and like throwing COVID-19 parties, and I'm trying to think what I would have done as like a college sophomore or a high school senior, and I probably would have been like a real pain. I probably would have been like your brother, but now that I'm 31, I'm like, please stay home. Like, don't go outside. Like, don't mess around.
Yeah.
Do you know of anyone that's like sneaking out or like who are openly like on social media, for example, like bragging about like breaking social distancing, for example, or do you like hear any stories?
Um, I think people were like over spring break. Like a lot of people where didn't cancel their trip and post themselves like in Spain or something like keeping my 6 feet. But um, that's gone way down recently. Like in the last week, I think people are finally starting to get like how serious it is.
Mm.
Um, but you still see, like my mom said that people were at Barton Springs, like just do, like acting like nothing was going on. Um, and then like I walk my dog sometimes, and I see like big groups just picnicking or something. And it's like, I'm pretty sure y'all don't live in the same house, but I'm not gonna yell at you.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, and I've been following the news, international news, pretty closely, and it's just like true everywhere. Like young people, old people, like right wing, left wing politics. Like it doesn't matter. Like developed country, Europe. I'm in New Zealand at the moment, and it's like every day the prime minister is like, "Please stop going to the beach. Please stop surfing. Please stop like walking your dogs in groups." And it's just
Exactly.
crazy. Like, yeah, I'm just there's just no good solutions for this. Did you see the news? I think it was like maybe I think one of the when it was really real for me was when they canceled March Madness. That's when I was like, oh,
Yeah.
whoa. And then I think that same day was when President Finvis's wife. Did you see that headline? That his
Yeah. That his wife got sick.
I think she was the first one in the UT. The email was like, we knew it was going to come to UT. I just didn't expect it to be someone close to me, comma, it was my wife. And you're like, oh,
Right.
yeah. It was surreal. Do you have any friends who have like started to change their plans, or if you and your family started to talk about, I mean, you're local, so UT Austin is like, I mean, the best choice regardless, but do you have friends who are starting to change their minds, or like, oh, maybe the family, like the dad lost the job or the mom is out of work and they can't afford such and such place? Is that happening right now, or is it still too soon?
If it has, I haven't heard of it, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, and we're recording this at the end of March, and so I feel like in the time of coronavirus, like 1 week is a year, and so yeah,
Yeah,
UT,
exactly.
yeah, like UT Austin. I know they've gone to, I think they're trying to do on mostly or all online, and I haven't seen anything for admission stuff like appeals or transfers or even like maybe financial aid is delayed. I guess we'll find out in a few days, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's pretty wild, and I don't have any advice for people, and I haven't posted any like thing on my blog because I just don't really even know. Like nobody knows what's going to happen, you know?
right. Just gotta stay at home and wait for it to blow over, I guess. But like
I've
in New
s-
York, like the cases are up to 60,000, I think, today. People watching this later are like 60,000.
yeah, they'll be like, "Wow, what those remember those good days?" You know, like April 20th. They'll be, or like maybe when I upload this video, they'll be like, "Wow, like what a like." Don't you remember like early March when we only had 100,000 cases globally? But
Yeah.
have they allowed you to do summer, like sign up for summer orientation or housing yet? Is that still going on?
They allowed me to sign up for orientation, which I'm doing the June 22nd to 24th orientation. I think it's the third session. So it's pretty far away. Um, but I don't think they've canceled their first two, which I think they start early June. Um, and then as far as housing, I'm hoping to get my contract on April 1st. Um, but I haven't been offered anything because I just accepted my admission a couple days ago.
Yeah. Was there any other decisions you were weighing besides UT Austin? Because you did remind me you got a scholarship to UT Dallas, like one of the excellence academic excellence
Yeah,
ones, and
yeah, I think I got 13,000 a year for UT Dallas, um, which is already less than UT at this point. Um, and then Texas A&M gave me, I can't remember exactly, but it wasn't very much.
Did you also get into honors at A&M and UTD?
Uh, yeah. Well, I didn't apply to honors at UT Dallas because I knew I didn't want to go there already.
Sure.
Um, but I did apply for honors at A&M and got in. My suspicion is there's an automatic like acceptance for rank test score um, somewhere that I was above the cut. That's just a suspicion.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure how A&M or UTD honors does it, if it's still holistic or if they just take like the top whatever 20% test scores in their pool. I'm not exactly sure how that works. But what are you most looking forward to, like going to UT?
Yeah, I
Is
think
there anything-
I know I had to do a separate.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying that I had to write a quote unquote new essay for the engineering honors at A&M. But I think they put a big emphasis on like special situations, like elaborate on this, but if you have a special situation, like make that the whole thing. um,
Hmm.
so I think it's mostly based on um, your rank and test score, and then they also look if you have special circumstances.
Sure, that makes sense because they already have the A&M supplement that you have to write for computer science and engineering majors already.
Right, and it was basically the same essay.
Yeah, I had it. Yeah, I think you and I worked on that one. There's
Like
some
the same
universities
prompt.
where it's just like you finish your application and then it's just like another essay and another essay and another essay Um, I think Baylor does this, like it's just like one essay after the other. Did you have anything like that where you were done and you thought you were done and then like something else like magically appeared?
Uh, no, not really. I mean, aside from the A&M honors one, um, and then I had to write the plan two after I submitted my application, but that wasn't a surprise. And then I didn't have to write anything for any scholarships. So no, nothing really unexpected like that.
Mm, yeah, that's good. It can be quite a headache sometimes. UT's not too bad about it. UT Austin, usually you know the front what's expected, and 40 acres is like the big one where you have to. This year they made students do 3 essays for whatever reason. And you didn't apply for 40 acres, did you, Max?
No, I did not.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I know a couple people who did. I don't know if they got it or not.
Yeah, they were supposed to do interviews a few weeks ago, and I wonder with coronavirus if that happened. I actually had a client this year who was a finalist, which was quite a surprise to both of us. So yeah, I think your application is another example of like, wow, this is just like the red carpet is being rolled out, and um, yeah, you just never know sometimes with admissions. Like students that I'm pretty sure are going to get in don't, and there's others like you. Like I was fairly confident in your application, and then there's like one good news after the other. It was pretty cool. Like you definitely won the lottery. I feel like.
Yeah, it surprised me a bunch, especially the honors. Um, yeah,
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I think you were definitely on the like when I think of all of the really upset people out there, like I know of the few who are on the other end of that, and so it's like in some universe the karma is balanced. I don't know, but yeah, I was happy that you got good news early and you
right.
need to unfold.
Yep, I was very lucky in that respect.
Yeah. Yeah, I was wondering, so you're hopefully going to enroll at UT, assuming that it's open and they have in-person classes in the fall. Is there anything that you're especially looking forward to, or anything you're like nervous about?
I'm looking forward to my Plan 2 classes actually.
Hmm.
Um, like, um, because the thing that I went to in my visiting session was a world literature class, and just the discussion that they had was really interesting, and I'm excited to have like a class that's just dedicated to that, and they said it was like really easy to get an A, so that's also exciting.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and then um, I'm kind of nervous about math because I got like my status. It says that I'm exempt from the math assessment thing. It says like we have everything we need.
Hmm.
But there's lots of for engineering majors. There's lots of like, well, do I just take Calc 1, even though I already know
Hmm.
everything, just to have a base? Because what if I go straight into Calc 2 and I don't like, I just struggle the whole time. Um, so I guess we'll see uh, what class they recommend that I roll in. But yeah, my biggest fear is like having a class that I know nothing about that they just throw me into. That's probably an irrational fear. I don't know.
They're like, okay, it's time for differential equations, and you're like, wait, I still need to do 408D.
Right.
Did you take calculus AP for junior year in the exam, or were you just this year?
No. Just this year, I'm in Calc AB. Um,
Okay, okay.
and that's why I was surprised that they said I was exempt. Maybe it's because I submitted my SAT subject test score. But no one I talked to has gotten that exemption.
Hmm.
So I don't know what they think they know.
Yeah, that is curious. I remember you mentioned that to me, and it didn't sound strange at first, but then now that you say that your friends didn't get it, I think it's quite a low cutoff, like a 650 on the math or like 28 on the ACT or something. It's there's this like in like basic math course like
Maybe it
314.
is. I mean,
Yeah.
Um, Most of the people I talk to aren't in engineering; they're in the College of Natural Sciences, so that's probably different. Um, but considering that a lot of those people have already taken calculus BC, um, and they still have to take that placement test. Kind of weird.
Huh.
Like I know they got a 5 on the AB, but
Hmm. Yeah, I'm just not sure. There's some like even though I've spent years doing this process, there's still stuff I just like don't know why they do or don't do certain things. And this is another like weird question mark. But I guess the bigger question about preparation, that would be a good question for the UT Austin subreddit as well, like before you go to summer orientation, because you could get engineers and computer science people who can share with you whether to retake 408C or, if you, I guess, pass. Are you going to take this weird like AP written exams from home thing that they're talking about doing?
I think so. I mean, I haven't canceled, so I guess.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'll take the calculus AB and then physics E&M and mechanics and an English test. The English, I think literature, yeah, English literature is going to be very weird because they've said that it's a 45-minute free response, and that's the time it takes to write one timed writing. So I'm like, are you going to have the entire AP tests be one timed writing?
One time writing, yeah. Yeah, there was a discussion on the college admissions counselors Facebook group where someone put forward the argument or question, if we could do 45-minute take home exams, then why have we been doing 3.5 hour AP exams all of these years? And it's kind of like in awarding the same credit, it's such a huge uncertainty.
Right, exactly. Like I just can't imagine like them grading the one essay and being like, well, you failed or you passed.
Yeah, here's a
Like
four. And you're
last
like,
year, yeah, last year I had to take a 3.5 hour English exam with 3 essays and like 60 multiple choice. And now you're telling me that I can get the same like evaluation with one essay. But I mean, it makes more sense for math and physics because that's basically the um, that's basically the length that they give you um, for the regular free response section. So they would just say, well, we can't do multiple choice because everybody will cheat.
mm,
Um, and we need, so we'll just do the free response. And I guess that makes sense. But for English, that's crazy.
yeah, it's a big question mark. And yeah, I'm just not even sure. Like, I already have people asking me, like, what about like my transcript? And I was like, I have no idea. Like, I have no clue. Like, nobody knows. Like, your registrar doesn't know. UT Austin doesn't know. Nobody has any idea what's going to happen with all of this stuff that's going on. And so, I hope that I think the next few weeks will definitely have an idea of how severe the crisis is. And so, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
just kind of watching and waiting like everybody else. Like I don't have the answers, and I have as many questions. And a lot of the questions I do have come from students like you who are sharing things with me about orientation or housing or whatever. And it's yeah, just still just have no idea what to think about everything. But
right. I think I forgot to mention, but my school is starting like some sort of online uh, learning, like distance learning, um, starting April 13th. No, starting April 6th next week. Or I don't know what date it is. um, but anyway, they're just gonna, I guess, email us assignments to do. Um, but yeah, that's the only thing that they'll have to grade, I guess, because it's not like you can give a test online, as far as I know.
Yeah, not easily, I don't think. That's what the crazy part is. Teachers and school districts are having to like create this infrastructure, from scratch a lot of times. There is software out there for like economics and calculus and like just stuff like that, but just for your typical classes, I have a lot of friends. My brother is a teacher as well. He's a AP human geography teacher for freshmen at our old high school in Mesquite, and yeah, he's just at home, and I don't. Yeah, it's just like the teachers, the counselors, the just everybody is just as in much limbo, and so um, yeah, I mean, I think for yeah, it's just such a weird thing. Do you think your school's going to give grades? Like I've heard some schools are going to pass fail, and like others are going to try and give grades based on the first like 6 weeks or something. Does your school or Round Rock have any idea what's going to happen?
They have not said. I can't imagine them going to pass fail, like with the emphasis that's on rank.
Exactly.
Uh, but at the same time, I have no idea how you give a specific grade um, when you can't really administer a secure test.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, maybe they're working on something where they can, but like certainly nothing. Free response. Like I can't imagine like trying to take a calculus test, like timed and free response. Like it would have to be multiple choice, and you can take it like in this window and like that. But yeah, I have no idea how they're going to grade anything.
A concern for you, or like so for I remember one time, for example, when I worked for UT, I visited with like the top students at a Dallas area high school, and a student pulled me aside and was like, hey, I need to tell you something. Like the salutatorian of our class is like just notorious cheater, and I just wanted to let you know. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't really know what to say, and I was caught off guard because I hadn't. I understand that cheating happens. Like cheating happens at universities, and I even unknowingly once helped a friend of mine get out of a cheating accusation that was leveled against him, and I didn't know that he had a reputation for being a notorious cheater, and he just called me like, hey man, I'm in this situation, like what would you do, what do you think, gave him my advice, and then like he got found like innocent or whatever. He ended up getting like still got like a C in the class. That was his punishment. But I didn't know he was a Macomb student, and I didn't know that he had this huge reputation for being just a massive cheater. And then I sort of
yeah.
later on that he like wasn't a good friend and sort of he had moral deficiencies in other areas besides his coursework. But is that something that you've seen in school, or like it's been a problem like in AP classes, or especially in like the top 10% group?
Um, yeah. So I think, especially with UT's top 6% rule, I think it's a huge incentive for people to cheat their way into a certain percentile. Um, and they do, and it works. Like, um, they usually write really crappy essays, so a lot of them got capped. But I mean, not capped, but not their major.
Like top
Um,
6%, but didn't get whatever business or something.
like top 6%, but not accepted.
Okay.
Yeah. um, so that's kind of their punishment, like for never trying on anything. You can't really fake it with an essay. Um, but yeah, there are a lot of cheaters around my school, and I know it's worse at other schools. And for whatever reason, they never get punished. Like, just like I've had come up to me and say, this person was cheating off of you on this test. I'm like, okay, I will cover my answers better next time, but are you going to do anything? And as far as I can tell, they don't.
Hmm.
Um, Besides just put more security, uh, more security measures, um, like having multiple copies of the test and seating certain people, certain places. Um, but like like whenever you're caught, it seems like there's not a huge punishment.
Hmm. Yeah, and that sends a signal to other people that it's worth the risk, you know, because college admissions is so high stakes that, as you say, if you're in, say, the top 7 or 8%, and if you just either don't have the willingness or the ability to do well on your exams, then, and you know it's going to be punished lightly or not at all. Um, yeah, it's a tough spot. It's a really tough spot for teachers to be in, especially, right?
Right. Yeah. And I could be wrong. Maybe they're punished more than I know. But I feel like if they were, then it wouldn't be as big of a problem.
What does it look like? Is it literally like just looking over your shoulder, or is it more sophisticated than that? Like,
yeah, like when someone was cheating off of me, they were just sitting behind me, and I had my tests like this, like, and it was a stupid move. Like, don't do that with your tests.
or
But they were just looking at my answers. Um, yeah, so people do that, and then like some people have pictures of the test. Like once I was offered like pictures of the test, I'm like, no, I'm not gonna take that. Um, yeah, and then people will cheat off of other people, and then say that the other person was cheating. That's
uh,
that's a strategy.
I've seen that
So
happen
terrible.
online with college admissions. You have students that will post their essays on Reddit, which is really dumb, or they'll post it in a Google Docs that they share. Someone else will take the essay, they'll apply to the same university. Both students will have the same essays on file, and then the counterfeit person will claim that the original writer was. This is totally happens if like at least a few times every year. I see it on the subreddits. Um,
Oh
yeah,
man,
it's pretty. Takes some kind of courage to have
yeah, it's
the
just ridiculous. I don't.
yeah.
I feel like any result that I get that wasn't because of me, like I just don't have a good feeling. I guess that's my personal anti-cheating mechanism. But some people obviously don't have it.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's an integrity thing, and character can go a long ways. And so I mean, you'll see this when you get to UT. Cheating is not specific to any domain or stage in life, and so, um, you know, just operating with integrity and honesty. Even if you might have someone getting in front of you in the short term, like you're going to come out longer, with better relationships and being a more trustworthy person. So yeah, it's tough. I can see the frustration. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I would probably be complaining a lot more if I hadn't gotten favorable results um, in my college admissions. But I think part of the reason um, part of the reason I did get those results is because I was honest. Like everything would have been worse if I knew um, like internally that this what I was putting forward was not actually me. Then I think something would have gone wrong. If that
Yeah,
makes sense.
certainly possible. The last question I wanted to ask is if you had any advice for high school juniors or sophomores, or things you wish you had done differently, or
Um, like I said, I would have taken more AP classes sooner. Not only because it can give you a better rank, but also because you learn a lot, and it's just heightens your point of view. And you can be a lot better person because of those advanced classes. I feel like that's something that people overlook a lot is like the actual value that your education is giving you. Um, and it's not just a means to get
mm,
to the next place, that it's actually making. What else would I have done? I feel like friend groups are very important. Just like making sure that you're not in a cheating culture or in a hateful group. I don't know. I feel like I did a really good job avoiding a lot of bad stuff. So yeah, just pay attention to who you're around, because the saying, the people who are the 5 people who are closest to you influence you the most, or like make up who you are, or something like that. There really is truth to that, and you need to watch who you're around.
Yeah, I think that's great advice to end on, and I'm sure those lessons will continue serving you well when you go to UT, to appreciate the education and opportunities that you have, and yeah, find some really awesome new friends and make the most of hopefully the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm really excited.
Good. Well, I hope that UT is open, and that yeah, things will be back to normal sooner than later. So I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today, Max. It was really cool catching up.
Yeah, thank you. I enjoy spreading my whatever it is.
All right.
Yeah.
Take it easy, man.